So this week's parsha is Parshas Tetzaveh, which, as is known famously, and the Baal Turim brings this down, that it's the only parsha from when Moshe Rabbeinu is born, and through Chumash Bamidbar, where Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned. Now, the whole thing is Moshe Rabbeinu speaking. It's in first language. It's in first person. A lot of it, but Al-Kapanim, which therefore that's why Moshe's name isn't there. But in the Torah narrative from Parshas Shmos through Parshas Maseh, it's the only parsha where Moshe Rabbeinu's name isn't mentioned. The Chernobyl Rebbe, the Sefer Moed 9, famously he says that this is connected to the fact that Tetzaveh, the Parsha Tetzaveh, is almost always falls out around the time of Zayin Adar. Zayin Adar is the Yartzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu. So in order to commemorate the Yartzeit of Moshe Rabbeinu, so we have this Parsha where his name isn't mentioned. Sounds good, right?
We celebrating.
Sounds like a good reason, right? We don't have his name because it's his Stalkus. What?
Fakert, we should mention his name because he was a great Navi. I mean,
okay, so first that's one question. But on a deeper level, when a person passes away, they disappear.
They don't.
We have later on in Tanya, we'll get there, Mirza Hashem, one day in Simon Chazayim, the Gersh HaKodesh, the Rebbe talks very strongly about the idea that tzaddik, he brings down tzaddika the ispater, that a tzaddik that passes away, ishtakach bekuli almen yater mebechayoi, is to be found in all the worlds, including our world, yater mebechayoi, even more than one during his lifetime. Not a tzaddik isn't less present, a tzaddik is more present. So why are we taking out Moshe Rabbeinu's name? Because it's his Yartzeit. You're saying that Yartzeit's a reason why to forget about a tzaddik.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I thought you were saying that a Yartzeit's not a reason why to forget about a tzaddik. You should mention him. But there's an even deeper point, which, okay, you're saying that's what you're bringing up. Since when is a Yartzeit the day when a tzaddik is gone?
But it's good is not mentioned because everybody knows is the parsha that he will mistalek, so everybody talking about Moshe Rabbeinu.
So you're saying it's a trick, it's a ploy. By not saying his name, everyone says, who's Moshe, where is Moshe? So everyone speaks about Moshe. That's interesting. Shivim find him out there. It's another way of understanding it. And then, so it's all good. But for whatever reason, we're not mentioning Moshe. It's his Yartzeit. That's it. Moshe is blacklisted this week's parsha. So you open up the parsha, and that's it. This parsha is avoiding Moshe, right? No Moshe. What are the first words of the parsha? V'yata Tetzaveh.
Ata is Moshe.
And V'ata, who's V'ata is you. Hashem turning to Moshe says, you should command. So what kind of game is this? We're not avoiding Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe is there.
He's the first one.
And V'ata Hakre, we have V'ata a bunch of times in this week's parsha.
He's being It's more intimate to say you than to say
it's even more intimate, yeah.
It's a bigger covenant.
And the truth is, as I'm sure many of you realize already, that these two questions already ain't for the tzveita. One question already answers the second. In other words, when it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu's Yartzeit, it's not pshat chas v'sholem. It's not pshat that we are that we're forgetting about him. To the contrary, we're referring to him in a deeper way. Referring to him as va'ata, as you. And what is the idea of you? So there's the idea of a person. A person has a name. And Moshe Rabbeinu, that was his name. But a name is not essential to who you are. It's not your essence. When you're born, you don't have a name. You don't have a Moshe Rabbeinu. The name Moshe, how old was he when he got the name?
When Batya gave him the name.
Which is at least 3 months old. That means the first 3 months, either he didn't have a name or he had another name. And what does that tell you? A name isn't essential. A name represents your attributes, maybe your personality, things that are about you, but it's not the essence of who you are. Name is not the essence of who you are. And Va'ata, when you say you, just like we know, that is the essence of a person.
Just like by Hashem.
Sorry, just like by Hashem. Anoichi Hashem Alikecha, the ultimate, right? The ultimate, higher than any name that we have for Hashem is Anoichi, where we say Baruch Ata Hashem.
Don't we learn that a name influences who you
Character?
are, how you become? It influences your character.
Your character. Are you your character? You have a character. Your etzem and neshama is beyond that. Your etzem and neshama is beyond the particular details of your character. Your etzem and neshama is the chiluk alikah, the nitzutz of Hashem, the God, the divine nitzutz which is within you. And on Moshe Rabbeinu's yahrzeit, the day when the neshama went back up to heaven, the way the neshama went back to heaven and reunited, so to say, and re-experiencing the etzem of the neshama, the essence of the neshama. So therefore, there we don't have the name, and there we have daf geva'ata, referred to Moshe Rabbeinu as you, which is Moshe Rabbeinu's essence.
Can I say something? It just came to my mind. In the Megillat Esther, Hashem is not mentioned. But we say every time say Melech is Hashem. Same thing here. Moshe is not mentioned, but Ata is mentioned. It's the same.
Exactly. The Megillah Esther is the Eibishter, as he is higher than names. That's what Taka was brought on in Kabbalah, and it's very much connected to Parshat Tetzaveh. And as you know, this year we have Purim Katan, but very often Tetzaveh is the week of Purim. And this is brought on this parallel between Tetzaveh and the Megillah has not gone unnoticed. Very much connected. But the whole idea of the Megillah is there is no name. Yeah. So the Rebbe says something interesting. He says, the Rebbe wasn't very big on himself giving gematrias. It's very interesting. The Rebbe's father was very much into making gematria. The Rebbe's father was very much into Remez and into Kabbalah. You look in the Rebbe's father's Svarim, many gematrias. But the Rebbe, there wasn't so much a style. But the Rebbe says, if you look at this week's Parsha, there's something which is so interesting and so obvious, the Rebbe says, that it has to be connected. And that is that the name of the Parsha is Tetzaveh. And Tetzaveh is the gematria of 501. The gematria. What is the significance of 501? So the Medrash Rabban Kehelos, it says that Holach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mahalach Tak Shana Liknois Lo Yishem. That Hashem went, he traveled a distance of 500 years in order to acquire for himself a name. That's what the Medrash says. Not getting into the details of what that means, but in general, this world, the Hagbolos, the limitations of this world, in general are described also in the Gemara in Chagiga as 500 years. How far is it from here to the heavens? 500-year distance. Between the heavens, 500-year distance. So the idea of 500 years represents the Hagbolos, the limitations of this world. And Hashem goes 500 years to get Hashem, because why is that? Because before, Hashem's essence doesn't have a name. But when Hashem goes to 500 years, in other words, when Hashem enters the space of the world, then the Eibishter acquires for himself a name. So the 500 represents Hashem's connection to a name. 501 represents the one which is higher than the 500, the essence of Hashem, or in the counterpart to that is the essence of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is higher than a name, which is why Parshas Tetzaveh
No name.
doesn't have
Nice.
a name. And the Rebbe takes it further, and the Rebbe says that the Parsha has 101 psukim, which once again, we know the idea, before we get there, the idea of 500 also, we know that the Neshama has 5 names. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chai, Yechidah. And whenever you want to take something to its most purest and highest and greatest and most perfect form, you multiply it by 100. So the idea of 500 represents each name of the neshama, each of the names of the neshama, in its most perfected state. So again, 501 represents higher than a name. And how many psukim are there in the parsha is 101, which once again, 100 represents perfection, but perfection within limitation, because 100 is a perfect number, as we just finished saying.
Even.
And 101 goes beyond that, like Mei Pam Va'achas. So we're finding in this parsha again and again this idea of the one which is above, the one which is above the names, the one which is above the limitations. He says, he says, so we have the word Moshe. I think the Megala Amukah says this. The Megala Amukah says, they take the word Moshe, the Helam of Moshe, the hiddenness of Moshe.
Helam?
The Helam. Hey, what is the hiddenness of Moshe? So Moshe is made up of 3 words: Mem, Shin, Hey. So Mem is written out Mem, Mem.
40.
Shin is written out Shin, Yud, Nun, and Hey is written out Hey, Aleph. So when we say Moshe, the Helam are all the other words, all the other letters. The Helam of Moshe, the gematria of that is 101, which is as many psukim as there are in our parsha. In other words, if you take the mem of mem, the second mem of mem, and the yud nun of the shin, so that gives you 100, and the aleph of the hey, that gives you 101. Mm-hmm. So that's 101. And where do we have the 101? The 101 is the Helam, and the essence always lies in the Helam. This is something, learning Tanya, we know the essence is always in the Helam, which is why the Gilui of Seva Klal is nafke in our world, which is a world of Helam. So this idea that we're talking over here in Tanya and this Perek over here about Mamala and Seivif, that within the Eibishter there's the level which is above and beyond limitation, and there's also the level which is within limitation. But we have it also within us, within our neshama. Every one of us has the etzem ha-neshama, the essence of the neshama, the va'ata of the neshama, and then there is the limited parts of the neshama, the name of the neshama, the names of the neshama. And this week's parsha, what we have over here in this week's parsha is emphasized is the Soiv Kalalman, that essential part of the neshama. And there's one other idea. We know that Taka, that it's brought down, I mentioned before that the Chernobler says that the reason why that we do this in this week's parsha is because why Moshe's name is not here is because of his yahrzeit. But it's also brought down another from, if I remember correctly, it's in the Tur HaAruch. What? And the reason why is because why is Moshe's name missing? Why is Moshe's name missing? Because Moshe Rabbeinu said, right? And we know that kill a tzaddik, I feel well tonight that when a tzaddik says something, even if it's conditional, right? Even if it's unconditioned. So therefore, therefore was Niskayim. It was fulfilled in this week's parsha, and this is really all the same idea. In Moshe's lifetime, you know, Moshe Rabbeinu, he did a lot of amazing things. Right? There is no Navi ever that was like Moshe Rabbeinu. But arguably, Moshe Rabbeinu's shining moment, his greatest moment of all, was when he confronted Hashem and says, either you forgive the Yidden, and if not, erase me from the Torah.
I think he's the only one can not fight with Hashem, but he's giving it to him.
The Gemara says that. The Gemara says that when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, the Gemara says that when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, the Eibishter was crying, and the Eibishter says, I don't remember if it was a pasuk, I remember which pasuk it was, but who's going to calm me down and when I get angry at the Yidden? Understand? The Moshe Rabbeinu, he stood up, the Eibishter. The Rebbe points out that the pasuk im ayin mechenin ha-mesifcha asher kasafta is Perek Lamed Beis, pasuk Lamed Beis. The heart of the heart. This is the heart of Moshe Rabbeinu. The Moshe Rabbeinu confronts the Eibishter and says, you better forgive the Yidden. And who? He's talking about a bunch of sinners, people who are... And if not, remove me from the Torah. Think about that sacrifice of Moshe Rabbeinu. You know, what do we say? What does the Navi say? Zichru Teiras Moshe Avdi. It's called Teiras Moshe. The Torah Tzivah Lanu Moshe. It's our legacy. And Moshe tells Hashem, I love Torah, but there's something that I love even more than Torah. It's not something that I love more than Torah. There's something that I'm connected to in a deeper way even than Torah. And that is every other Yid. That is the deepest essence, the deepest part of who I am. And if you can't forgive the Yidden, take me out of Torah. So Va'at Tetzaveh, when Moshe Rabbeinu's name is taken away, why is that? Because Moshe Rabbeinu revealed his very essence in saying, Im ayin mechenin ha-mesifach asher kasafta, Moshe Rabbeinu was zoicha to a parsha where his name doesn't appear, and all we have is Va'ata, his very essence. That very essence, that Va'ata, which caused him to be Moshe Nefesh for every single Yid, that is the Va'ata which is revealed in our parsha, and the week of Moshe Rabbeinu's yahrzeit, and the week of Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday.